Hello, and you're here on C Major Before the Show. I'm your host, C Major Porter. It's Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful day here in the greater New York City area. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're here on C Major Before the Show. And it is Saturday. It's cold. It's crisp. What happened? I thought the groundhog was supposed to bring us some really good spring-like weather after he did not see his shadow. I don't know. We're still waiting. And so I want to welcome you to today's podcast episode because we're talking about the uncertainty of high and low sounds. It's something that I address with my students. It seems like on a weekly basis because I have students that are still learning their way around the piano and they're still learning up from down, left from right. They're still trying to understand these music terms like ottava and when they recognize them on the page, they're so excited, but at the same time, there's some question marks in their minds as well. So we're going to try to, dispel a little bit of the mysteries for you this week if you're having that issue. And if you happen to be one of my students and you're listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having fun at the piano and not being afraid to explore those high sounds and being very sure, not having any doubts when you see music on the staff. I will never forget, I had this one student that basically let me know. That's really the best way to say it. He let me know that he had been reading stems instead of note heads. And it wasn't a funny moment. If you're a piano teacher and you've ever had that happen to you in your studio, it's a concern. So why was I not clear in my instruction? So immediately, I started to blame myself. But then once the student is clear, then all is clear. And I think that's what we really aim for in our studio. So as much as we like to have fun, as much as we like to have our students explore and to be able to flow with music making and all of that, at the same time, we also want to answer those real questions that are there. So the uncertainty of high and low. I felt like that should be a theme for us this week. We're all over the place, as you know, on this podcast. We talk about everything from chords to fun music making to reading notes on the staff to reading using text notation to music making and wellness topics, you name it. But what I really wanted to do for 2020 was to try to have some fun with you. So today's episode is about having fun when you are uncertain, when you are feeling uncertain about whether or not the music is going high and whether or not the music is going low. And don't be afraid to make mistakes in your music making. Sometimes when you make a mistake, don't think, oh no, I messed up. I did it wrong. Those are things that we don't really want to hear, but they come out sometimes. And then you just try to reassure the student that they're close. They're almost there. And if they're not quite there, they're going to get there. So you just have to reassure them. So here on C Major Before the Show, we're exploring the concepts of music making and learning to play the piano. So if it's your first day tuning in, and your first time tuning in, welcome to the podcast. This episode is going to be fun. And then if you can, a little bit later on, join us over at the C Major Radio Show, because there we try to write things down and further answer your questions by providing definitions, maybe reading a little bit from our course books that we use here on the podcast. And by the way, if you ever have any questions about the resources that we use, feel free to reach out to us on social media and let us know that. So we'll get some shout outs a little bit later, but right now, I'm going to start off with something that was on my mind to play for you. And I think I may have mentioned it on the last podcast, that I wanted to take a look at the first page of something that may be familiar to you. You know, sometimes you know music, but you don't really realize that you know music. And that is if somebody says a title to you, and then you go, oh, I don't really know that song. But then once they start to play the song, then you realize that you actually know the song. So that may happen to you in the next few moments. But I'm going to play just music from the first page of this score that I have in front of me. And then we're going to talk further, okay? So you're going to hear some movement. And then I'll come back. I had some other things in mind to share with you as well that are coming across my desk. And so just in the spirit of encouraging you to make the best music you can make, I'm going to share those things with you, as well as talking with you about some of the things that happened this week. So in a way, we provide updates, things that have been going on during the week with my students, and just invite you to share with us as well. We want you to feel like you're not in your music making by yourself, that there are many people that will join you. Okay, so you're going to hear some music coming from my podcast piano, I like to call it. And so we're stepping away from the recorded music for a moment. And we are live here on C Major Before the Show. Thank you for joining us. I hope wherever you are, the weather is good. Here, the weather is trying to warm up a little bit. It was really sunny today. I was glad to see that, but it just felt chilly. I felt like I needed a big coat, that I didn't need to put away my winter coat just yet. So, I'm here at the piano. By the way, my piano may be differently tuned. I like to caution you before I sit down and play, because sometimes it feels like, and it sounds like, if you're communicating across computers, that the sound of your music can change. Okay. So last week, I know I played for you some running music. I played Run Run. Today, I'm not really demonstrating a particular technique, but I really just want you to listen to how the sounds are moving up and how the sounds are moving down in this particular music. Okay, so I'm going to place my microphone away from me so you'll hear some distance, and then I'll begin to play. I don't know if you've heard that tune before, but I have students, and I will say students, plural, that are interested in music of the 80s, and this was definitely an 80s song. And so I have a couple of students that are interested in the music. They really think it's cool. So it's kind of cool for me because I'm definitely an 80s person. And so to have students here in the 21st century, young students that are interested in this music, is really, really fascinating for me to see their enthusiasm for this type of music, and to be curious about how to play music freely, how to create a beat with this type of music. And so, anyway, were you able to really hear where the sounds are moving low as opposed to high? And did you hear any middle sounds? That's really what we're listening for today. And then, how do you think those sounds were indicated in the score? Do you think there were any ottava sounds? Meaning, do you think that I played something in one place and then it was imitated in another place? And do you think there was a sign for that? And should there have been a sign for that in this type of music? So some things to think about. We're going to talk about ways that sheet music sometimes gives you directions that you may not understand. And so it helps to have a teacher to explain those things when you come across those. I feel like in my teaching, I have students that like to ask a lot of questions. And that makes me happy because it knows they're really trying to understand something. So let me know what you think. I'll be listening to hear from you, and I'll be looking to hear from you on social media. Now we're going to go back to my recorded music location, so you'll hear some movement as I'm changing my location. And I really hope you had a nice week. I hope that your week was filled with music. I feel like my week was filled with music and coffee culture. And what else? Some really interesting conversations, I would say. Okay, so here we are, back in our recorded music section. And so we said today that we were going to focus on exploring the concepts of music making and learning to play the piano by exploring the uncertainty of high and low. How do you know when you're listening that you're hearing high sounds versus low sounds? And I think in the description I said something about Beethoven sounds. That's because there's this really, really cute method that sometimes will challenge students to think of the low sounds on the piano as your Beethoven sounds, and then the high sounds on the piano as your Mozart sounds, and then they put a little character with it. So it's really, really cute. So if you are going to be joining us over at the C Major Radio Show, feel free to join us over there, because we'll put a name to the sounds that we played, and then also describe a little bit of what you were hearing, and then we can talk about the writing, because there are some ledger lines involved. There's what could have been ottava involved, but I'm going to give you the definition for ottava over there. So I don't want to spoil it over here. So keep that in mind. I'm spelling ottava, Ottava. And we're going to check the spelling of that a little bit later on in our other podcast. Now, I wanted to share with you some other things that were going on with my music making. And again, we just invite you to share what you're doing on this podcast as well. If you are following us online and you're over at C Major Classroom, you know that we talked about improvisation last week, and maybe how to plan your improvisation, some things to listen to. I get so excited during the week because there are certain things that come across my desk, and then I go, okay, I really need to post this. So I posted some links to some recordings that I was really, really excited about with some of the most phenomenal playing I've ever heard in my entire life. And so don't be surprised if you see that. But how did your improvisation go? Were you able to improvise this week? Applaud if you were able to improvise this week. Good. I'm really, really glad to hear it. I like to hear good things about your music making. And so let me just share with you, before I start to share with you some of the things that my students were doing this week, I will share with you some of the music that I've been looking at. Now, it does say improvisation on this music, and it's from a composer named Ernest Bloch, B-L-O-C-H. So I don't know if you say Bloch like that or Bloch. But anyway, that's how you spell his name. And I think you pronounce it Nigun, N-I-G-U-N. And in parentheses, it says improvisation. And it's number 2 from Bel Shem. 3 pictures of, I think you say that, Hasidic life. And it's for violin and piano. So this piece has come across my desk. It's something to work on with a violinist that's in my community. And we're hoping to make some really fun music together. And it's a fun piece to play. It really is. There's some nice things happening. Lots of tremolos, which we may be talking about in the future. But I like that it appears that this word for this particular piece means improvisation. And so the person is giving you some pictures from the life that they're describing. And so keep that in mind. That's something that I'm working on. Then I'm working on something called Hebrew Melody, which is also edited for violin and piano. And Joseph Akron, I believe is the name of the composer. And so also very fun to play. There's some nice things that are happening there. And it looks like it was transcribed for violin and piano. And then here's something that I've actually received a lot of requests for. And it's from my students that are just really, really excited about Harry Potter. So I have this book of instrumental pieces that include a piano accompaniment. And it's not that difficult, but it's just, it looks very complete because there are at least, let me count the songs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Appears to be 16 pieces. And of course, the one that everybody wants to hear is Hedwig's theme. So, but I'm looking forward to learning all of this music and accompanying a viola player in the future, or someone that plays viola rather, to maybe program some of this music and just see what we get. But we are also celebrating, I believe, the birthday of John Williams this week. We're celebrating something. I saw it on Twitter. But anyway, in case you're curious, this book is available. You can also check out other instrumental solos. There's a series written for flute, clarinet, alto sax, tenor sax, trumpet, horn and F, and trombone, apparently. And then you have an orchestrated accompaniment CD if you need it. And then it appears that you also have some other ways that you can practice this music. Okay, that's something else that I'm working on. And then I have this Mendelssohn piece for violin and orchestra that I'm working on, concerto in E minor, Opus 64. And this is nice. I've always liked Mendelssohn's music. I mean, I know that he was made fun of by other composers during his time. They didn't really take his music that seriously because he wasn't a struggling musician. He was a very privileged composer. But it's still nice to play some of his music from time to time. And then I like that they have some notes here. But anyway, so I look forward to performing his music. I will definitely let you know if we do a public performance. It may just end up being a recording of it, just something fun to do. And then I really want to ask my colleague how she pronounces the last name of this composer, because this composer is known for the violin music that he writes for violin and piano. So is it Wieniawski or Wieniawski? Which way would you say it? Same way, I guess you would pronounce either Horowitz as Horowitz or Horowitz. I've heard it said both ways. But there's a scherzo, and then it looks like a tarantella for violin and piano, opus 16, and it's in 6/8 time. It's very fun to play, though, so I'm really excited about the possibilities for that. And then I have some other students that are working on pieces for either competition or something else coming up where they want to feel challenged. So shout out to those students. Shout out to my colleagues, and shout out to those students that are preparing for upcoming competitions. Okay. I'm also excited about one of my other students who is really, really taking off in his learning. And I've mentioned him on the podcast before. I just didn't really mention him by name, but he's having fun playing the piano, finally getting comfortable with finger numbers as well as letters, as well as knowing whether to play high and low and improvising at the same time. But I really, really wanted to give a shout out to my student who is having fun playing jazz and blues. And in particular, she's working on a piece called Ain't She Sweet. And we listened to it together. We listened to Frank Sinatra's version of it, which was really, really nice, and happened to be in the same key that she was learning to play that particular piece in on the piano. So anyway, shout out to my student having fun playing swing and learning to play Ain't She Sweet. So shout out to her. And here on the podcast, we like to give shout out time to my students. Now, shout out to another student who is transposing. Some of my students really enjoy transposing. And so it turns out the student is transposing long ago to a minor key. And long ago, as you know, was written by Thomas Bailey. But Bailey is spelled Bayley. And he decided that he wanted to explore the minor keys by transposing long ago to a minor key. So shout out to him. And so we invite you to join us a little bit later over at the C Major Radio Show, because we will be talking about and defining ledger lines. And we'll also talk about Alberti bass. It came across my studio a few times this week, where the student was challenged to learn to play Alberti bass and to learn about Mr. Alberti and to learn about the history of Alberti bass. So we're going to talk about that history a little bit over at the C Major Radio Show. So if you can join us over there, we're trying to make it just as fun and as exciting. I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say that. We're trying to make it just as fun and as exciting as it is over here on this podcast. But I know that the C Major Radio Show is meant to be intense, and it's going to take off. I have a feeling, because once we put the visual with it and show you what we're writing down, and to give you ways to see visually how we're doing it, it's going to take off. So I'm very excited about the possibilities over there. Something else I'm really excited about, as you all know, I'm very much into coffee culture. And it's nice to see when others on social media are joining that enthusiasm for coffee culture. But I discovered this week this really, really great drink. If you have a chance, go to your favorite barista, wherever that is. I know that there are many in the city. And not a particular chain of coffee stores, but just find a really good barista, somebody that really listens to your ideas when it comes to making up your own drinks, and see if they can put together. Now, I know the proportions that I like and the portions that I like, but see if they can put together a drink that involves vanilla flavor with 2% milk, but only the foam from the milk, not the milk itself. It's almost like the same way you would make an espresso macchiato. Now, some people get that confused. They think espresso macchiato is the same as making a caramel macchiato or a latte macchiato, but it's not. Espresso macchiato means you want espresso and you want foam. So it's that idea, but here's the thing. The foam that I'm going to have you make with your barista is cold. Yes, that's right. Only cold foam, not hot foam. Cold foam. Now, you probably could try this as a hot drink as well if you are sensitive to cold more than you're sensitive to hot. I haven't tried it hot yet, but I would tell you, I tried it cold. It was fantastic. So it's just the cold foam made from 2% milk with a vanilla flavor thrown in, and then an espresso on top. So you choose the espresso flavor that you want. I know the espresso flavor that I like. And then to top it all off, you put the ice in on top of the cold foam before you add the espresso. And then you can put some sort of drizzle on the top. Now, the drizzle can be a flavor that you like caramel, or it could be butterscotch, or it could be mocha if you want. But some sort of drizzle on the top to add just a little pop of sweetness to it. And then here's the other thing. Make sure that you have the type of lid that you can sip from. And then don't sip from the lid. Sip from, if you can, a paper straw. I know that we are trying to cut down on plastic, and you see it all around us. There are no more plastic bags at the supermarkets. Very few supermarkets are serving plastic bags or allowing plastic bags. They are substituting paper bags for packing your groceries, or you're supposed to use these reusable bags. But anyway, so in the mindset of cutting down on plastic, maybe use a paper straw, or if you can't find a paper straw, then use the type of lid that you can sip from. Better yet, take your own cup if you can. And then put a sleeve around it. I'm the type of person that I like a sleeve at the bottom of my drink, whether it's hot or cold, because I just don't want to feel the temperature of the drink in my hand. I'd rather just sip the drink and focus on the drink and not focus on whether the drink is hot or cold, and feel that in the palm of my hand. And so that's it. That's what I want to encourage you to discover this week, and let me know if you're able to find a barista who will make that type of drink for you. So go for it. Have fun with your coffee culture and your music. And the type of music you should listen to while you're sipping this drink, I don't know. I'll let you decide. You can decide if you want to listen to your favorite tune or something else while you're sipping your coffee drink. But have fun with it. Now, another thing that's coming to my attention is that I have a lot of students that really forget how much they've learned in a year. And so going forward, I'm going to really try to acknowledge a little bit better about how far you've come. I always like to say that with my students. Look at how far you've come in your music learning. But I think going forward, if not by the end of this year, certainly by the end of next year, try to plan a little bit better so that my students have an idea of how much they've learned in a year's time. Heartbreak and Wonder music. That's the music that we use here on the podcast. So that's the music bed that you hear. And I just like to use that music to set the tone. The music is melancholy yet hopeful. That's what we strive for here. And we always want to bring hope to your music making, however you are making the best music you can make. And so if music is what feelings sound like, then another question came to me this week. What would it sound like for C major to make happy sounding music? I have an idea about that too. So not all the music is melancholy. There's a reason for the Heartbreak and Wonder theme. But at the same time, I think that maybe one little spin, a little bit of a spin that I can put on it to bring a little bit more happiness to the sound. So I have some ideas. I think they will work best, though, for live performance. I've done a little bit of it already, but I'm trying to plan how I'm going to go forward with performance. So thank you so much for tuning in here on C Major Before the Show. It's a shorter show today than what we would normally bring you, but I just wanted to touch base with you to let you know I did not forget about you. The uncertainty of high and low. That was our theme for today. Join us over at the C Major Radio Show for more definition and more discussion about how to write down these high and low sounds and how to find them in your own music making, especially if you're looking at a score or music that is presented in the form of sheet music even. Our fun music exercise for this week, look for that over at C Major's Classroom. I think it will involve focusing on high and low. I think it will. And it's also going to continue your journey, help you continue your journey in improvisation as well, because there is a structure to improvisation. We said that last week. You can improvise freely however you want, but there are ways to also organize your improvisation so that you intentionally move in certain directions, or you just go with the flow of how you feel. Maybe you'll feel like moving high, and then you'll feel like moving low. You feel like adding certain motifs and so forth to your music making. You've been listening to C Major Before the Show. It's been a great pleasure to be with you on this Saturday. Join us next week, because we'll be here. And then the week after that, we'll be here too. And then we'll talk with you mainly about what's been going on with our music making during the week. It's a chance to really catch up with us, basically. What are the updates? What are some of the things that we've been doing that you may want to hear about? And also do like a side-by-side comparison. Not that you're competing with us, but basically, what do you want to know about what we're doing with our music making? How does it encourage you on your own music making? And because you know what? You certainly encourage us. So thank you so much. Give yourselves an applause for that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being the type of audience that really encourages us to do what we do. And we're learning so much from you, as well as maybe you're learning something from us too. I'll see you next week, right here on C Major Before the Show. Take care.